story from Matthew. Jesus proposed another parable to the crowd, saying, "The kingdom of heaven can be likened to a man who sowed good seed in his field. While everyone was asleep, his enemy came and sowed weeds all through the wheat, and then went off. When the crops grew and bore fruit, the weeds appeared as well. The slaves of the householder came to him and said, 'Master, did we not sow good seed in your field? Where have the weeds come from?' He answered, 'An enemy has done this.' His slaves said to him, 'Do you want us to go and pull them up?' He replied, 'No. If you pull up the weeds, you might uproot the wheat along with them. Let them grow together until harvest. Then, at harvest time, I will say to the harvesters, first collect the weeds and tie them in bundles for burning, but gather the wheat into my barn.' He proposed another parable to them. 'The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed that a person took and sowed in the field. It is the smallest of all seeds, but when full grown, it is the largest of plants. It becomes a large bush, and the birds of the sky come and dwell in its branches.' He spoke to them another parable. 'The kingdom of heaven is like wheat that a woman took and mixed with 3 measures of wheat flour until the whole batch was leavened.' All these things Jesus spoke to the crowd in parables. He spoke to them only in parables to fulfill what has been said through the prophet. 'I will open my mouth in parables. I will announce what has lain hidden from the foundation of the world.' Then, dismissing the crowds, he went home. His disciples approached him and said, 'Explain to us the parable of the weeds in the field.' He said in reply, 'The one who sows good seed is the Son of Man, and the field is the world, and the good seed the children of the kingdom. The weeds are the children of the evil one, and the enemy who sows them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the harvesters are angels. Just as weeds are collected and burned up with fire, so will it be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send his angels, and they will collect out of his kingdom all those that cause others to sin and all evildoers. They will throw them into the fiery furnace, where they will be wailing and grinding of teeth. Then the righteous shall shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Whoever has ears ought to hear.'" The Gospel of the Lord. Well, if you were here last week, I was here, and this is my second week in a row, and I kind of finagled my way to come back here because I enjoyed myself so much. Actually, Father Jacob is out on a mission trip, and Father Jerry is out on a family vacation, and I enjoyed celebrating with Father Carl, and I enjoyed the people here, so I sort of said, I'll come back to St. Eugene's again. I think I'll be here one more time before I leave back to the seminary. And again, if you don't know who I am, Dennis Saran, I'm one of the seminarian deacons that will be ordained, in God willing, a priest in May. This gospel story is very uncanny and very similar to the one that was last week, which was, again, a sower that threw seed all over. So let me apologize for reading the long option today, because I wanted to talk about something that's in the long option. This week, somebody is sowing weeds into the good seeds, and I want to talk about that somebody. Sometimes the church really wishes that Jesus would have talked more about certain topics, because it would have clarified things for us and what we believe. And in the parables today is one of the few places that Jesus in the entire gospel speaks about evil. And he talks about the evil one. And then when he does it, he unfortunately does it like in a story form. So the church wishes that if we want to think about evil, that Jesus would have said something more. Because unfortunately, thinking about why there's evil in the world kind of leaves us with a serious dilemma that was present even before Jesus' time and even present during Jesus' time. And he never quite directly addresses that problem. And it basically leaves us with a dilemma of two choices. Either God allows evil to happen, in which case we wonder if it's truly a fully loving God, or he can't stop evil from happening, in which case we wonder, is God really all-powerful? Now, even the founding fathers weighed into this at a time. They believed in what we term a watchmaker God, which was sort of a solution. Their solution that the founding fathers believed was that God created the world, but then he sort of wound it up and let it go. So that everything that happens in the world, God is sort of hands off. Now that's one answer for evil, but it's not what we believe at all. The problem is that many of people have turned away from God and religion because they can't answer that question. They say, well, if the loving God, how come this happened to me? If it's a more powerful God, how come he lets this happen to me? So the church laments the fact that it can't answer these questions from something that Jesus said. And the church calls their lamentations theology. And so the church has theology to try and figure out what God did, what Jesus didn't say, but tries to make sense of things in this world. So we're going to have to do a little theology today. First, what is evil? I want to separate it from evil from bad things. Because sometimes people say, well, it's evil that this happened to me, and it just was bad. So let's say a shopping cart. You're sitting at the Pick and Save, and you're coming out in a shopping cart, the wind blows it, and the shopping hits you with a shopping cart in the leg. Bam. That's bad, but it's not evil. But let's say you're out in the parking lot, and somebody seems you took their parking space, so they push a shopping cart and hit you in the leg. That's evil. Sometimes really bad things happen. My wife died in 2009, and that was really bad, but it wasn't evil. But many people, when something really bad happens in their lives, they can't get over asking, why me? And because they keep asking and they never get a satisfactory answer of why me, they give up on God as well. Because they say, well, God made this happen, and why me? So first, let's tackle why bad things happen. Although the Catholic Church is very good at not telling you exactly why bad things happen, they do have things in the Catechism that they endorse. Back in the Old Testament, they used to write that bad things happen because you or your family did something bad. You must have done something bad because that happened to you. Even in Jesus' time, if you remember the story about the man born blind at birth, even his disciples came up to him and said, well, what did they do wrong that he was born blind? We obviously don't believe that, but it's still, I'm surprised how many people, in their heart of hearts, when something happens, they kind of say, well, I deserved it, or this happened because of this. So we haven't gotten rid of that, but we don't believe that. In the Catechism, a famous theologian, Thomas Aquinas, says this, and is an explanation for why bad things happen. God allows bad things to happen in order to draw forth good. Now I want you to keep that thought. God allows bad things to draw forth good. That, I want you to keep it in mind because that answer satisfied the church for hundreds of years. It was the answer that the church was happy with. Until World War II and the Holocaust. And the death of 11 million people, including 1 million children, in a supposed Christian country. The church had to re-examine the fact that bad things happen because God makes good out of them. Because it sounds so hollow and something so terrible happened in the world. So where does evil come from? First, the church recognizes that we were created by God to live with him in paradise. But we're not in paradise, are we? Even reading the Sunday papers, and in fact, my whole homily was sort of inspired by, I'm worried about what's going on in the world. We're not in paradise. So what happened? Something went wrong. Our relationship with God was ruptured. And it wasn't God's fault. The name that we put on anything that happens that moves us away from God is sin. And this rupture started at the beginning of time. Our experience with God and in the present time as well. And today, if you want to know about why it's still within us, think about when anybody does anything wrong, the first thing you want to do is run away and hide from God. Who did that from the very beginning? Adam and Eve. So from our very origins, we have this tendency to run from God. So if we put those two things together, we have that it started from our origins and it's sin. We have original sin. And one concept of original sin is this rupture from God, and somehow evil came from that rupture from God. Now Jesus changed everything. His life and death and resurrection, he conquered sin and death. He repaired that rupture. The crucifixion, one of the most shameful ways to die, has been turned into victory, flipped around. It's been recast in the meaning. So why Jesus came, why is there still evil? Well, one answer, it's in the parable. We're not done yet. One of the things that the church believes is that we are in the end times now. And we're living on the journey to the end times. And so when there is an end, this will all be set right. But to be honest with you, that sounds nice, but it doesn't help me. It doesn't help me a lot. Because why do really bad things happen? Like, why did the Holocaust happen after Jesus came? To be honest, we don't know. Within that same catechism in the Catholic Church that I quoted Thomas Aquinas, there's another famous theologian, St. Augustine. And he's quoted in the catechism as well, and he says, I sought from whence evil came, and there was no solution. So in the end, we still don't have an answer of the mystery of why there's still evil in this world. So, did I just talk for nothing? Are we back where we started? Can God really make good out of any evil? Well, we have the most perfect example of whether God is capable of doing that through the death of his Son. The most greatest moral evil that could have occurred, the death of God's Son. God turned around and made good out of it. So we know he's quite capable of that. And in the death and resurrection of Jesus, all the meaning of pain and suffering has been turned around and flipped around. So what Jesus did is not give us an explanation for evil. He gave us an explanation for what happens when we suffer. All the pain and suffering to the bad things that happen to us somehow lead us to salvation. It's called redemptive suffering. There's something in the suffering we do that leads us to redemption. The most important message from today's parable is that evil does exist, and the exact reason for evil we still don't know. But Jesus changed the outcome. He changed the result of evil. The message of Jesus is that no matter what, no matter how much evil seems to be winning in this world, and today it seems like it's winning a lot, no matter how much good seems overwhelmed, the meaning of the parable is that in the end the weeds will be pulled and the wheat will be separated. Jesus' promise is that the battle of good and evil has already been fought and won. It's over. The victor has been decided. In the end, good wins and evil loses. That's not a mystery. That's a divine promise.
Let us now profess our faith. I believe